The text came through at 6:47 p.m. sharp. It's done. No punctuation, no context. Just those two words, sitting in the middle of my phone screen like a landmine. It was from Melissa, my wife. 13 years together. At first, I didn't move. I was standing in the grocery store, one hand on a jar of marinara, the other gripping the cart like it could anchor me to something solid. For a second, I thought maybe it was a wrong number. Maybe she meant it for someone else. But the name was right. The number was right. And something in my gut, some instinct older than reason, whispered that it wasn't about her filing paperwork or ending the marriage. This was something colder. I dropped the jar in the cart and left without checking out. The drive home was a blur. Red lights, green lights, my knuckles white on the wheel. I tried calling, no answer. Sent a text, "What's done?" Nothing back. I pulled into the driveway fast enough to kick gravel. The porch light was off, but the door was unlocked. Inside, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Not even the usual scuffle of paws against hardwood. Then I saw him. Max was lying in the kitchen, curled awkwardly by the fridge. His breathing was shallow, belly rising too fast. Foam clung to the edge of his lips. He tried to lift his head when he saw me, tail thudding weakly against the floor. "Hey, buddy," I said, crouching. My voice cracked. His eyes were glassy, unfocused. I checked his water bowl, untouched. The kibble was half-eaten. A small pool of vomit stained the tile. I didn't wait. Scooped him up, grabbed my keys, and drove straight to the emergency vet, running red lights I wouldn't remember later. They took him from my arms without asking questions, told me to wait. I paced the parking lot under flickering lights, fists clenched in my jacket pockets. Another text from Melissa came through an hour later. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." Still no answer to my question. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. The cold certainty settled in then. Whatever it wasn't just about us. It was about Max. The vet came out at 9:12 p.m., a clipboard clutched to her chest and tiredness written all over her face. Dr. Glass, late 40s, no nonsense, the kind of person who's seen every kind of emergency twice. "Mr. Blake?" she asked. I nodded. "Your dog's stable for now. We pumped his stomach and started IV fluids. We also ran a tox panel." She glanced at her clipboard. "Results are preliminary, but we're fairly certain he ingested ethylene glycol." "Antifreeze," I said quietly. She looked up, surprised. I worked maintenance during college. I knew what it was. Sweet taste, lethal in small amounts. A few tablespoons was all it took. "This wasn't an accident, was it?" I asked. She didn't answer right away, just shifted her weight and sighed. "It's hard to say for certain, but dogs don't typically find antifreeze on their own inside a kitchen, especially not mixed with food." I felt something in my chest tighten. "Someone gave it to him," I said. "We can't make that determination," she said, but the way she avoided my eyes said enough. Max would make it. Barely. His kidneys were in rough shape. We wouldn't know the full damage for days, maybe longer, but he'd live. I sat in the waiting room for another hour, watching a muted TV play an old sitcom while my mind ran loops through every detail. Melissa's text. "It's done." And then silence. She'd never liked Max, said he was too clingy, said he took too much of my time. She used to joke that I loved that dog more than her. Maybe she was right. I scrolled back through our recent messages. nothing overt. But reading them now, I saw the cracks, the sarcasm, the clipped replies, the questions that never got answered. 3 weeks ago, she'd asked if I was renewing Max's prescription food. I hadn't thought much of it at the time. Just a question. Now it felt like a test, a countdown. My phone buzzed again. Blocked number. No voicemail. I looked out at the parking lot. It was empty now, just my truck and the soft glow of the clinic windows. I wasn't angry. Not yet. What I felt was something colder than that, like frost on the inside of a locked door. And I knew, deep down, this wasn't the end. It was the start of something much worse. Looking back, it didn't happen all at once. The cracks started small, hairline fractures along a foundation I thought was solid. Little things, easy to ignore. She stopped saying good morning, stopped asking if I'd be home for dinner. When I mentioned something from work, she'd nod, distracted, already halfway into her phone. At first, I blamed stress. She'd taken on a new role at the clinic. More patients, new management, long hours. I gave her space, tried to be understanding. That's what you do in a marriage. You let the bad weeks pass. You believe in the good ones. But space turned into silence. She started locking her phone, new password, notifications hidden. Said it was because patient privacy rules were stricter now. I didn't argue, just made a mental note. Weekends changed, too. She used to love slow Saturdays, coffee on the deck, Max napping at our feet. Then suddenly she had plans. Book club, brunch with friends, yoga retreats, every excuse neatly packaged and untraceable. I asked once, casually, if she'd be home Sunday. She looked up from her suitcase and said, "Why? You need me to walk the dog?" That one stuck. The arguments got sharper, not louder, just more precise. She knew how to cut with words. I'd come home from a 10-hour shift and she'd be waiting with a list of things I hadn't done. Trash, groceries, a missed text. I'd try to explain, to de-escalate, but there was no room for logic. "You've checked out," she said one night. "No," I replied. "I've just been trying not to make things worse." That didn't land. I suggested therapy twice. She laughed both times, said I was the one with trust issues, not her. So I tried harder, planned a weekend trip, bought her favorite wine, took over more chores. Max and I kept the house running while she drifted somewhere I couldn't reach. Still, I hoped. Even as her phone buzzed in the middle of the night. Even as she started saying I instead of we. Even when she began avoiding Max like he was part of a past she wanted to erase. I didn't know where she'd gone, but I knew she wasn't coming back. It wasn't one moment that confirmed it. It was a slow accumulation, dust on a window no longer cleaned. Her tone changed first when she talked about work. Suddenly, there was a new name in the stories. Rick, a recently divorced tech consultant helping revamp their scheduling system. He was funny, smart, easy to talk to. At first, I just nodded. Then I started counting. He came up in 8 conversations in 2 weeks. The same week, she updated her wardrobe. New jeans, tighter tops, clothes she wouldn't wear around the house but wore to work. I made a joke about her turning 30 and getting stylish again. She didn't laugh, just said, "Some of us still care what we look like." Then came the second phone. I found it in her gym bag, buzzing quietly beneath a towel. Different case, no lock screen. I wish I could say I resisted, but I didn't. I opened it. The messages weren't explicit, not yet, but they were familiar. Can't stop thinking about that conversation today. Wish I could see your face right now. He's clueless. The last one hit hardest, not because it was cruel, but because it was true. I didn't confront her. Not then. Instead, I took photos of the messages, synced the phone to a cloud folder I could access later, started logging the times she was out and the excuses she gave. I wasn't building a case. I was just trying to stay sane. One night I checked the GPS in her car. Something she probably didn't remember was connected to our insurance app. Her book club had met in the parking lot of a Days Inn off the highway. I drove past once, saw her car there, didn't stop, just sat in mine for a few minutes, letting the truth settle in. It wasn't just betrayal, it was strategy. She'd been laying the groundwork for weeks, maybe longer, distancing, discrediting, making sure when the time came, I'd look like the one unraveling. I wasn't angry yet, but I was done pretending not to see it. And I'd already started writing everything down. It was a Tuesday night when the fuse finally burned down. Dinner was quiet. Too quiet. Max wasn't home yet, still recovering at the emergency vet. His absence sat heavy in the room. Melissa pushed chicken around her plate while I tried not to look at her too long. We were coexisting in silence now, two strangers orbiting the same furniture. She broke first. "You've been watching me," she said suddenly, voice sharp, "going through my things, snooping like some pathetic stalker." I didn't respond right away. Just set my fork down and looked at her. Calm. Controlled. "What are you talking about?" I asked. She laughed. Sharp. Forced. "Don't play dumb. You think I don't notice when you move things? When you suddenly know where I've been?" I wanted to say that I'd known for weeks, that her car's GPS wasn't private, that I'd seen the texts, that I'd watched her build a world that didn't include me. But I said nothing. Not yet. "You're controlling, Nathan," she snapped. "Obsessive. I can't even breathe around you anymore." I stood up, walked to the sink, rinsed my plate. That seemed to bother her more than yelling would have. "You don't even care that this is over," she said. "Care?" I said quietly. "You poisoned my dog, Melissa." Her eyes narrowed, face flushing red. "You can't prove anything." That told me everything. She stormed out of the kitchen, slamming the bedroom door behind her. I stood there for a long time, staring at the fridge, trying to remember the last time we'd smiled at the same joke. 2 hours later, she came back out. Eyes dry, voice colder than before. "You'll be out of my life soon. Just wait." She said it like a promise or a threat. I watched her walk past me and into the night without looking back. And in that moment, I understood something clearly. This wasn't a breakup. It wasn't a fight. It was a setup. They came to my job, 2 sheriff's deputies in full uniform, walking through the warehouse like I was some kind of threat. My supervisor handed me the envelope without meeting my eyes. Temporary protective order. No contact. I opened it slowly. Hands steady. Heart anything but. Melissa had filed a restraining order. Claimed emotional abuse, intimidation, threats. Said she feared for her safety. That I had a history of controlling behavior and unstable tendencies. None of it was true. But the language was clean, professional. She'd either had help writing it or been planning it for a long time. You need to vacate the property within 24 hours, one deputy said, not unkindly. And you can't contact her, directly or indirectly. The property is mine, I said. Doesn't matter right now. Judge signed off. You can contest it in court. I packed a duffel bag that night, took only what I needed. The house I'd bought with my VA loan, the kitchen I'd remodeled with my own hands, gone in a single paragraph of lies. Melissa wasn't home when I left, just her scent in the air and the cold echo of her silence. I stood in the doorway for a minute, Max's leash still hanging on the hook. Then I closed the door behind me. Friends started texting that week, carefully worded check-ins that felt more like curiosity than concern. Someone had told them something, probably her. I didn't answer most of them. At work, people avoided eye contact. Word travels fast. When the story comes from the person holding the pen first, it gets believed. I found a cheap motel off the highway, paid in cash, spent nights staring at the ceiling, watching the cracks slowly grow across the drywall. She hadn't just tried to erase me from her life. She wanted to rewrite me as the villain. But I knew the truth. And I still had every receipt. 3 days after I left the house, I bought a new burner phone, paid in cash. It wasn't paranoia. It was preparation. Melissa had already painted me as unstable. All it would take was one more accusation to make it stick. I needed to be smart, documented, strategic. I started with the text. It's done. I screenshotted it, along with the timestamps and follow-up messages. Backed them up to a cloud drive she didn't know about. Then I printed everything and slid the pages into a manila folder I kept under the passenger seat of my truck. Next came Max's vet records. I visited the clinic the day after moving into the motel, trying to stay calm as I filled out the request form. I told them I needed everything: diagnosis, treatment notes, toxicology results. They printed it all, no questions asked. Ethylene glycol poisoning confirmed. Estimated ingestion window? 3 to 6 hours before symptoms began. That put it right in the middle of Melissa's errand run the afternoon I got her text. I started a spreadsheet, tracked her movements based on bank charges, GPS history, and calendar entries I still had access to through a shared iCloud. Coffee at 1:12 p.m., pet store visit logged at 1:41. Clinic parking lot at 2:10. No appointment, no reason. She'd never liked going there, not even when Max was sick. It didn't prove anything. Not yet. But it gave me a trail. I called Darren next. Former Army buddy turned private investigator. Used to be CID, the kind of guy who could sniff out a lie before it left your mouth. Told you not to marry a woman who refuses to pet your dog, he said when I explained the situation. I didn't call for judgment, I said. I called for help. We met the next day in a booth at a barbecue joint off I-90. I handed him the folder, texts, vet report, timeline. He flipped through it without speaking. You want truth or revenge? He asked finally. I want to know exactly what she did, I said. Then I'll decide. He nodded once. I'll be in touch. And just like that, the investigation began. 2 days later, Darren called. Meet me at the vet clinic, now. He didn't explain, just sent the address and hung up. When I got there, he was already inside, leaning over the front desk with that patient, quiet look he used when he was about to ruin someone's day. The receptionist looked nervous, but cooperative. We got something, Darren said, gesturing me toward the back. They led us to a small office with a computer monitor. Dr. Glass was there too, arms crossed, clearly uncomfortable. "We don't usually share surveillance footage," she said. But Darren explained the situation. The footage started playing. It was time-stamped exactly 2 hours before I arrived with Max. The camera showed the side parking lot. Nothing fancy, just grainy black and white, but clear enough. A woman stood near the edge of the lot, hood up, sunglasses on, but the way she stood, weight on her left hip, fingers twitching the strap of her bag, it was Melissa. No question. She wasn't there for an appointment. She didn't go inside. She just watched, pacing occasionally, checking her phone. Then the footage jumped. New angle. This one from a side hallway with limited access. It captured a moment I hadn't seen, Max being carried in by a vet tech. And outside the glass door, barely in frame, Melissa turned and walked away. Dr. Glass paused the video. "Why would she be here?" I asked quietly. "That's your question to answer," she said. "But she didn't bring your dog in. She just showed up and left." Darren leaned back in his chair. "She wanted to see it happen." "Or make sure it did," I said. The footage didn't show a smoking gun. She didn't pour poison, didn't confess. But it raised a new kind of certainty in my gut. This wasn't negligence. This wasn't an accident. Melissa wasn't trying to hurt me by ending our marriage. She was trying to erase me, starting with the one living thing that loved me unconditionally. I left the clinic with the footage on a flash drive, and something else I hadn't felt in weeks. Focus. This wasn't about saving the marriage anymore. This was war. The house might have been off limits, but the cloud wasn't. Melissa's old MacBook had been synced to our shared iCloud for years. She probably thought I stopped checking it once I got my own machine. She probably forgot it was even linked. Most people do, until it's too late. I logged in from my motel's Wi-Fi, the kind that always feels a little too public, and waited as the system churned through old backups, photos, notes, messages. Then I found them. Deleted messages from a number I didn't recognize, outgoing only. A full thread, wiped from her phone but still stored in the backup. I read through them in silence. It's done. Just need him gone now. He's so attached to that dog, it's pathetic. You'd think it was a kid. Once Max is out of the picture, I can move on this faster. I sat back in the motel chair, phone in one hand, cold coffee in the other. The messages weren't dated, but they were time-stamped. Just hours before Max got sick. One line kept flashing in my mind. He's so attached to that dog. Like that was a bad thing. Like it made me weak. In another message, she referred to Max as the obstacle and said she was sick of pretending. Her tone was clinical, like she was planning a renovation, not tearing apart a life. The affair partner responded in short, flippant phrases. He'll fold. They always do. Once the order hits, he'll disappear. The level of confidence made my skin crawl. Like this wasn't the first time they'd done something like this. Like it was a playbook. I started cross-referencing the phone number. Public databases, social media. A name finally popped. Jeremy R., 38, former contractor, minor criminal record. 2 DUIs, fraud charge from 5 years back, dismissed. Melissa had called him a co-worker, but there was no record of him ever being employed at the clinic. She lied. Again. This wasn't an affair. This was a plan. And from the messages, it was clear. They didn't want me just gone. They wanted me discredited. Melissa didn't think I'd fight back, didn't think I could. But she forgot what I do when someone takes a shot at me. I don't flinch. I reload. I found her through a tagged photo on Jeremy's Facebook, back when he still had one. A 4th of July barbecue 2 summers ago. He was standing next to a tall woman with auburn hair and cautious eyes. Danielle Carter, 34, lives 2 towns over. Divorced. I reached out with a simple message. Hi, my name is Nathan Blake. I think we have something in common. I'd like to talk off the record. She replied 10 minutes later. If this is about Jeremy, yeah, we should talk. We met at a cafe off Highway 2, the kind of place that plays jazz over mismatched teacups and smells like old furniture. She sat across from me, arms folded, expression guarded, but not unfriendly. I'm guessing you've been served? She asked. I nodded. Restraining order, false claims. 2 days after my dog was poisoned. She winced. Jesus, they escalated. They? She hesitated. Jeremy doesn't act alone. He finds women who are vulnerable, usually married to military or law enforcement, talks them into thinking they're trapped, that their husbands are unstable, that he's the answer. And then? Then comes the abuse narrative, the restraining order, the financial grab. My stomach tightened. That happened to you? She nodded. He convinced me my husband was hiding assets, that he was dangerous. I filed the order, took our daughter, tried to sell the house. I didn't know until later that Jeremy had done it before. Same script, different names. I pulled out my folder, showed her the messages. Her face went pale. They used those same phrases with me, called my ex controlling, said our dog was territorial. The hell does that even mean? Danielle leaned forward. He makes you feel like you're choosing freedom. Then he isolates you. And once the money moves, he disappears. You think Melissa knows what she's part of? I don't know. At first I didn't either, but eventually, you know. She handed me a flash drive. Court transcripts, police reports, my story. You might need it. I nodded, taking it. You going after him? She asked. Not just him, I said. All of it. Because now I wasn't just dealing with betrayal. I was dealing with a pattern. And I was going to break it. I met the attorney on a Wednesday afternoon. His office was tucked between a title company and a dentist in one of those low-rise buildings where the carpet always smells like mildew. His name was Harris, mid-50s. Wore the same expression a mechanic gives you before telling you your engine's cracked in half. He skimmed through the restraining order, barely blinking. These claims are thin, he said. No police reports, no witnesses, just vague emotional distress and a timeline that doesn't hold. I've got more, I said, and slid the folder across the desk. Inside, the vet's toxicology report, the time-stamped texts, the recovered deleted messages from the iCloud backup, Danielle's court records, and the video stills from the vet's security footage. I watched his expression shift, just slightly. Jesus, he muttered. This isn't a divorce. This is premeditated. She's trying to paint me as dangerous, destroy my reputation, and from the looks of it, I'm not the first guy this has happened to. Harris sat back. We'll file a motion to vacate the restraining order immediately. Request an evidentiary hearing. Judges don't like being used as pawns. And her claims? We'll challenge the validity. show inconsistencies, present your evidence. And the counterclaim? He gave a slow nod. Defamation, emotional distress, maybe fraud, depending on what else we dig up. You're not just playing defense anymore. Good. I was tired of being quiet, tired of letting her write the script. Harris leaned forward. But understand, once we do this, it escalates. No more subtle games. You ready for that? I didn't hesitate. I've been ready since she texted me, "It's done." We filed that Friday. Motion to contest. Motion to dismiss. Motion to expose. And then we waited. Melissa would get served again, this time not as a victim, but as a defendant. And when she walked into court, smiling for the judge, expecting another easy win, I wanted her to see exactly what she'd unleashed. I wasn't just back. I was armed. The first camera went up that night. It was legal, barely. Exterior facing, mounted in the bed of my truck, motion triggered with cloud backup. The dash cam was already installed, dual facing, recording every time I turned the key. I wasn't just protecting myself, I was building a record. Melissa was good at playing the victim, but she was sloppy in her arrogance. Thought the restraining order gave her the upper hand. Thought I'd retreat. She didn't know I'd already mapped every weakness in her story. All I needed was for her to prove she didn't believe her own lies. It didn't take long. 4 days after the filings, she drove past my motel. Twice. Same car, same plates, same speed drop as she rolled by. She didn't stop, didn't get out, just made sure I saw her. The dashcam caught both passes, time, date, GPS tagged. I clipped the footage and sent it to Harris. Violation, he confirmed. We'll include it with the rest. 3 nights later, I caught her again. This time in the parking lot across the street, pretending to scroll her phone. She looked up once, just long enough to lock eyes with my truck, then got in her car and drove off. I sent that clip too. No sound, but her face was clear. She was watching me, stalking the man she'd claimed was stalking her. I didn't react, didn't call or confront, just documented, logged the time, saved the files. And then I started walking around with a body cam, discreet but always on, grocery store, gas station, anywhere she might try to run into me and claim harassment. Every angle covered, every lie prepared for. Because when she finally faced a judge, she wasn't going to be able to hide behind her words. She'd have to face the truth she never saw coming. A truth with timestamps, with video, with receipts. She'd written a narrative, but I was writing the evidence. The mediation room looked like it hadn't changed since 1994. Beige walls, cheap carpet, a folding table that creaked when anyone leaned on it. Melissa sat across from me, flanked by her attorney. Hair perfect. Outfit expensive. Smile fake. I hadn't seen her in person since the night I left the house. She wouldn't meet my eyes. The mediator began with pleasantries, but Harris didn't waste time. He laid out the motion to dismiss. The surveillance footage, the vet's report, the deleted messages. He spoke calmly, methodically, like a man reading off a checklist he already knew would bury them. Melissa's attorney tried to object, citing privacy invasion, irrelevant character attacks. The mediator waved it off. "Mr. Blake, you'll have your chance to respond," she said to Melissa. Her voice was cool when she began. Nathan was manipulative, controlling. He threatened me. I filed for protection because I feared for my safety. And your dog? Harris asked. Did you fear for his safety too? She blinked. What? He slid the toxicology report across the table. Then the text. It's done. Just need him gone now. Who is him? He asked. Melissa's smile cracked for the first time. I don't remember sending that. Of course not, Harris replied. And these? He tapped a printout. Texts to your affair partner. References to the dog as an obstacle. You said once he was out of the picture, you'd move faster. Move where exactly? She shifted in her chair, arms folding. This is harassment. No, Harris said evenly. It's evidence. Then he dropped the last piece. A sworn affidavit from Danielle Carter, Jeremy's ex, detailing the same exact pattern. Sudden restraining order, isolated spouse, hidden financial moves. Melissa's attorney looked rattled, whispered something. She snapped, louder than she meant to. They're lying! They're trying to destroy me! Harris leaned in, voice low. No one had to destroy you, Melissa. You did it yourself. Across the room, I finally saw her panic. Not the surface-level theatrics she used on Friends. Real panic. The kind that sets in when the story you built starts to cave in. The mediator nodded and stood. This needs to be reviewed by the judge. We're done here today. Melissa didn't speak as she left. She didn't look back either. The hearing was set for 9 a.m. on a Monday. By 9:22, the judge dismissed the restraining order. Insufficient evidence, she said. Questionable motives. Pattern of deceptive behavior. Melissa stood there next to her attorney, arms stiff at her sides, face drained of color. Jeremy wasn't with her. He hadn't shown up at all. The judge wasn't finished. I'm also referring this matter to local law enforcement for further review, specifically the poisoning allegations and potential perjury. She banged the gavel. Done. Outside the courthouse, Harris and I didn't say much. He lit a cigarette, offered me one. I declined. You'll get a call soon, he said. Police are going to want a statement. Be honest. Be detailed. I nodded. I've got the vet, the footage, the texts, period. And the motive. An hour later, Detective Salazar from the county department called. Wanted to talk about Max, about the antifreeze, about the timeline. I gave him everything. The tox report. The video of Melissa outside the clinic. The messages. He asked one question. Do you think she meant to kill the dog? Or scare you? I don't think she cared which, I said. That night I got a call from the vet, Dr. Glass. You might want to know, she said quietly. 2 officers came by this afternoon. Took statements. Asked for footage. I gave it to them. Thank you. They're treating it as animal cruelty, she added. Could escalate depending on what else they find. It wasn't satisfaction I felt. Not really. It was quieter than that. Just truth catching up. By Wednesday, Jeremy had been picked up for questioning. The fraud charge from his last scheme had been reopened. Someone from Danielle's county had caught wind of the new evidence and wanted to revisit the old case. Melissa got a visit too. Not arrested. Yet. But her lawyer issued a panicked press release about miscommunication and unfounded allegations. I didn't respond. I let the paper trail do the talking. Because this wasn't just about me anymore. This was about the kind of people who burn lives like matches, then act surprised when the fire spreads to their own feet. And this time, there was no place left for them to run. The charges came 2 weeks later. Animal cruelty, filing a false police report, fraud. Not everything stuck, but enough did. Enough to keep Melissa's name in court dockets and local headlines. Enough to make her attorney stop returning her calls. Jeremy, on the other hand, was hit harder, violated probation, facing federal charges for financial fraud tied to his previous scheme. Danielle's story had opened doors he couldn't shut fast enough. I didn't watch the coverage, didn't follow the case updates online. I didn't need to. I had Max back. The clinic released him on a cold Friday morning. He was lighter than before, slower. But when he saw me, his tail thumped against the floor like nothing had changed, like I'd never left, like he didn't remember what she tried to do to him. Dogs forgive in ways people don't. I moved back into the house 2 days after the restraining order was officially dissolved. Melissa hadn't taken much. Just clothes, some furniture, a few decorative things she'd always insisted tied the room together. I didn't replace them. I liked the space better with the quiet. The cameras stayed up. So did the locks I changed. There wasn't a single part of the house that didn't hold some echo of her. An old photo in a drawer, a bottle of shampoo in the back of a cabinet. I didn't go on a cleansing rampage. I just let the ghosts linger and fade on their own. Some things don't need to be erased. They just need time to lose their shape. Friends started calling again, carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. Most of them had heard parts of the story. Some knew the full thing. I answered when I could, kept it simple. It's handled now. That was enough. One night I sat on the porch, Max at my feet, a cold drink in my hand, and thought about all the ways this could have ended differently. If I hadn't backed up those texts, if I'd reacted with anger instead of patience, if I'd let her rewrite the narrative before I found my voice. But I hadn't. I'd held the line. Quiet, focused, measured, like I always had. This wasn't about revenge. Not anymore. This was about reclaiming what someone tried to take from me and knowing it would never happen again. Not because I was angry, because now I was aware. And that was enough. This story was intense. But this story on the right-hand side is even more insane.